Donna Maria with you today. We are at Home Depot Ford Container Fest, and that means Brian Lloyd from Olson's Greenhouse is with us. Brian's going to show us how to put together a beautiful container. So Brian, you've picked a nice large container because those usually do better. You don't have to water them as much.
Yep. We want more soil volume to hold more water so that if we miss an afternoon, it's okay.
All right, so tell us about the soil. What are you putting in there?
Well, number one thing is potting mix. You got to have good drainage. You don't want garden soil for new soil. This allows air to the roots, which is super important. And then a lot of containers nowadays are coming without drainage holes. So we drilled some holes in the bottom of this, and so we're good to go with drainage with both the potting mix and the container.
Okay, tell us about these beautiful plants that you have selected for your container.
All right, what I started with was the color scheme I was going after. And I wanted to use analogous colors, so I used 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel. So that's blue, pink, and purple. And when you do that, whenever you use analogous, you want to concentrate on one. And I'm going pretty heavy on the blues here, and so I've got a lighter touch of pinks and purples to go along with that. Okay. So I started with that, and then I wanted a thriller, filler, and spiller. So my thriller is delphinium. I love a blooming thriller. And then we want to fill around it. I've got dahlias and upright African daisies to kind of fill around. And then this is a variety of phlox called woodland phlox. So those are my 3 fillers. They'll kind of go around and fill the space around the thriller. And then spillers, I've got a creeping phlox, another genus of phlox.
Oh, so beautiful.
And then here's another filler plant. Our plant of the week is Dianthus carnation. So I did that for scent, and it's got a nice pinkish color. And then I've got another spiller here. These are not perennials. This is not hardy to our zone. They're a zone 8 perennial, so a little bit further south they'll live over the winter, but this is an annual here. It's sedum lemon coral from Proven Winters. This will spill over the edge, and it's drought tolerant, so it gives a lot of nice contrast, both in color with that chartreuse green and the texture of the leaves. I love to contrast against other regular leaves.
So what's with the yellow then?
And then I always love a pop of contrasting color with either white or yellow, just a little amount. So I've chosen a bright yellow Bidens to give that contrast.
Okay, and where do you start with all this?
All right, the biggest
thing is... We're going to let you get to work. We're going to stand back and watch.
Once we get most of our soil, we don't want to fill it all the way to the top. We get most of our soil in. I like to put the biggest root ball in first, and we can manipulate these root balls. So I'm going to put my thriller. I'm actually not going to put this in the center. I'm going to put it towards the side and towards a corner. And the intent is that this will go against a wall. So I want my thriller, my tall item towards the back. So I've got that. I'm just gonna support the soil volume with my hand, the level of soil, get my fingers work between the roots. And then I'm gonna work that pot off, okay? Now this is, sometimes perennials get a little bit root bound. I wouldn't say this is root bound, but the roots are starting to circle. So I'm just gonna encourage them to go a different direction. You don't normally need to break up the root ball on most annuals, sometimes on perennials. This has been growing since last summer, so I'm just going to tease a few of the roots. That's all you need to do. Dig a hole. Now the biggest thing here is the level of the soil on the pot. It needs to be about a ½ inch below the rim of the container so water can get in and stay in and not flow out the top. And then we want all those soil volumes for all of our plants to match and be the same level throughout. So that's the important thing, is figure out the soil volume you want it, put the soil in below it to support that, and then make sure it's a little bit below the rim of the pot. So there's my thriller. Now I've got a lot of pots here. I might have to manipulate some root balls to cram them all in. But I like to let the greenhouse do the raising of the plants and choose mature plants for my containers. So it's got instant impact, instant color. We've got a short growing season here in Utah, so why wait for the color? Let the greenhouse grow them earlier in the winter and get them up to size. And once the temperatures are good to put them outside, we've got full plants ready to bloom. So I'm going to put my dahlia in here. Again, make sure the soil level is the same on all the plants, and I'm just kind of feeling that with my hands. So that's good. And then when you put 2 circles together, you got a gap. You don't want a gap of air to reach the roots. So you got to fill that in, those gaps, with potting mix. There's another another filler. All right, how are we doing on time?
So you may have to continue with Michelle. We're going to let you go ahead and continue if we need to start the show again.
Okay, sounds good. So this woodland phlox is kind of a filler slash spiller. Some of it'll fill up high and some of it will go over the edge. Ooh. That's the new Eco Pot from Proven Winners. This is a compostable pot. There's no plastic in it, and you see how easily it cracked. This will compost in the yard, and you can even plant this pot by releasing these tabs and taking the bottom off. So I'm actually going to do that with this plant right here and plant the pot in there. I'm going to have to run and grab a little bit more potting mix, but that's what we're going to do with this Eco Pot. Oh, we got some here. And the roots will just grow out the bottom of this pot, and then over time this pot will biodegrade. So I'm going to get those towards the front corner, let them spill over the side a little bit. I've got another filler. This is our carnation. This is for fragrance. A lot of times our planters are by walkways, and it's always good to have a little fragrance worked in if we can. That way when you're walking by, that subtle fragrance can kind of draw your attention and let you enjoy the container. What I did there, I've got two kind of pinkish purples next to each other. I'm going to offset them and contrast them by putting the blue in between. So if you're putting two colors that are the same next to each other, it can kind of get muddy, so separate them with a contrasting color can help. Okay, I need a little more potting mix. Now I thought I had too many plants. I didn't have enough actually, so I'm gonna go get a few more. But this is the concept. I'm just gonna fill with more of the same. I'm just gonna get more spillers around the edge. So we've got our thriller, we've got our fillers, we've got some spillers, we've got different analogous colors to all go together. We've got annuals and some perennials. The perennials, when they're done blooming, can be dug out by the root ball, placed in the yard, and we're good to go. That's it.